Since commencing operations in Australia in 1936, Capral has grown to become Australia's largest manufacturer and distributor of aluminium products and systems. Capral supplies aluminium products and systems to a diverse range of critical industries, from detached residential housing to high-rise commercial construction, marine, aviation, defence, transport and general engineering industries. It's all made possible by our national footprint of 5 world-class extrusion facilities with 8 operating presses. Supported by 9 major regional distribution centres, in an increasingly connected world, Capral is embracing e-commerce solutions, information portals and mobile apps, making it easier than ever for our customers to access the information they need whenever they need it. Capral is committed to safety, quality and the environment, holding certifications for AS 4801 Workplace Health and Safety, ISO 9001 Quality Management, ISO 14001 Environmental Management. Capral is also an accredited supplier of Lloyd's and DNV certified industrial extrusion and rolled products. Supported by one of the largest and most experienced aluminium R&D teams in Australia, Capral's products are rigorously tested to ensure they meet the highest standards of function and performance. Capral is shaping the development of aluminium products in Australia, shaping technological advances in automation and engineering, shaping us as the clear leader in the Australian aluminium industry. Capral is shaping the future.
Thank you, Clive. Well, welcome everyone. This afternoon we're going to speak and talk to you about Capral. So as Clive alluded to, Capral is the largest supplier of aluminium extrusion and sheet products into the Australian market, and we've been operating here for over 80 years. Our core business is the manufacture and distribution of aluminium extrusions, produced in what we are now 6 manufacturing plants and distributed through 18 distribution centres throughout Australia. Aluminium is strong but also lightweight, and it's the preferred material used in lightweight construction applications. Our key market is residential and commercial construction, where we supply our customers, who are fabricators, of windows and doors, fencing systems, facades and other building systems. We also supply into a wide range of industrial sectors, including truck and boat building. Sales revenue exceeds 430 million. We have an estimated market share of 26% and currently employ over 900 people with 825 permanent employees. So that's just a general overview of the business. So moving on to the next slide. I just want to talk about our results for the 2020 year. We run a calendar financial year, so these results are for the 12 months end of December 2020. It was a tale of 2 halves. So the volumes are overall up 8% to 61,000 tonne. All of that volume increase came through in the second half of the year, with the first half being significantly impacted by COVID restrictions, albeit we were able to pretty well continue to operate our plants through that period. The trading EBITDA finished quite strongly of the year at 19.7 million, up from 11 million in the previous year. And a very strong second half due to higher sales demand, particularly gaining share from imports. There were 3 reasons for that import market share gain. Number 1 is the effectiveness of anti-dumping measures that we've had in place for a couple of years. The second reason was the disruption to import supply chains post-COVID, and we're able to take advantage of that. And thirdly, there's been a growing Australian-made sentiment in relation to Australian products in the last 6 months. We have a very strong balance sheet with net cash of close to 50 million at the end of December. Normalised earnings per share at 66 cents, and we paid a final fully franked dividend of 45 cents per share. So I want to talk a little bit about Bremer Park and a significant milestone event for Capral. 3 years ago, Capral encountered some headwinds. Volumes have fallen as a result of growing imports and a slowing housing market. And this had a major impact on our Bremer Park site, which is our largest site within Capral. As a consequence, we embarked on a major restructure of the Bremer plant in the second half of 2019. This involved the closure and removal of unprofitable operations, the sublet of part of the site, and investment in automation of the packing lines at Bremer Park. This resulted in the removal of $8 million of costs from the business and represents a significant turnaround point for Capral, with Bremer now contributing profitably and solidly profitable. In February this year, Capral acquired the G. James extrusion plant in Smithfield in Sydney. This acquisition is strategically important, with New South Wales being our largest market. The plant is in excellent operating condition and was acquired for less than 30% of its replacement value. We're very pleased with the acquisition, and we see Smithfield as being a positive contributor for us in the years ahead. So we can move to the next slide, please. This slide just gives you a representation of our business. So 84% of Capral's total volume is extrusion, the vast majority of which we manufacture in our own plants. And 16% of our sales are made up of imported rolled product, which effectively is sheet and plate, aluminium sheet and plate. The channels to market, as you can see from the middle graph there, 56% of our total sales in Capral is extruded aluminium directly from our manufacturing plants to our large customers. Around 44% of our total volume goes through our own distribution centres. As you can see there, 28% of that is extruded aluminium, and the balance being 16% of sheet and plate, which we call rolled product. Our exposure to the various industries in which we play, certainly we see the residential and commercial construction markets representing 55% of our total volume. And that's by far and away our largest segment, individual segments, and with the major products going into windows and doors into that sector, those sectors. Around 45% of our volume goes into a wide variety of industrial markets, the largest which are marine and transport, but there's also a very, very wide variety of industrial applications. Okay, so we move to the next slide. As I said earlier, one of the key markets for us is residential construction, and this slide represents housing starts over the past 10 years. Capral's products primarily end up in the green parts of the graph, which is detached housing and low-rise multi-res. High-rise apartments are largely the domain of fully imported windows, so aluminium extrusions that we supply locally don't end up in a significant amount of those high-rise apartments. So when we look at this graph, we're mainly focused on the green parts of it. As you can see in 2020, certainly the first half was very quiet, obviously with COVID restrictions, but bounced back strongly in the second half of 2020 on the back of very low interest rates, home builder stimulus and state government first homeowner incentives. The outlook for 2021 is very strong, particularly in detached housing, which is a core segment for Capral. So moving to the next slide. Just some examples of where Capral's products end up, particularly on extrusion products, and we have here 3 examples of commercial buildings where our products have ended up, and also a private residence, just to give you some idea of where we end up. Okay, moving to the next slide. So talking about the industrial sector, which represents around 45% of our total volume, you can see there a slide of Capral sales over the past 8 or 9 years, and with good growth in 2020, despite the impacts of COVID in the first half of the year. So just talking about those key sectors for us, so marine was actually slow last year due to timing of boat builds, and we lost some export market share to the Austral businesses in the Philippines and Vietnam, where they started to import raw product directly from China rather than us bring it into Australia and resend it back up there, but very low margin business. But still, there was a little bit of share loss there. Transport market is the other big sector for us. Quiet year in 2020, impacted by COVID restrictions, but we're starting to see a strong lift in the first part of 2021. And the manufacturing and general fabrication industries have bounced back out of COVID very strongly, and partly due to the import replacement volumes that we've enjoyed in the second half of 2020 and continue to do in 2021. Solar is a new market for us. This is tradition. Solar rail sits under solar panels. So we're talking about the rail that solar panels sit on in both commercial buildings and residential buildings, which has been the domain of imported aluminium extrusion for a number of years. As a result of anti-dumping measures that were put in place about 18 months ago, we started to grow local share in the sector, and it's become a very strong earner for us. And we see that trajectory continuing into the next year. So moving to the next slide, we've just got a few examples of where our industrial products end up. So an offshore patrol vessel there, top left-hand corner, a very large commercial ferry with about 1,000 tonne of aluminium destined for Europe, built in the Austral shipyards in Western Australia, a piece of architecture there in South Perth, and a trailer unit, so all the aluminium siding, which is aluminium sheet, but all the structure of that vehicle is aluminium extrusion, which we produce in our plants around Australia. So moving to the next slide, we talk about the outlook for 2021. So first of all, we see the housing starts growing by 17%. I think the latest stats may be even stronger than that, which came out a couple of days ago, will certainly underpin our volumes for the year ahead. The commercial, construction, industrial sectors are forecast to rebound strongly post-COVID. We will be focusing at Capral and also growing our own aluminium distribution business. As you can see from one of the earlier slides, around 44% of what we produce goes through our own distribution business, and this is our higher margin segment for us. And we've got a big focus on continuing to grow and expand that. The Smithfield plant, we've spoken about that acquisition, very important to us, and it'll be strategically important for us in the years ahead. Last week, we upgraded our 2021 trading EBITDA forecast from around 23 million, 22.6 million, up to now 25 to 27 million on the trading EBITDA basis. That is roughly around about an excess of 25% increase on where we finished 2020. So we're forecasting a strong earnings growth in the year ahead, and certainly the year has started off that way. On that basis, we will be in a position to continue to pay fully franked dividends for some time, and certainly the Capral board sees that this is one of the key drivers, or one of the key underpinning things for Capral is our ability to continue to pay dividends and have a solid dividend stream going forward into the future. So that's it. We've got we saw that 2020 was a year disrupted by COVID. One of those industries that was fortunate enough to be able to trade through or operate through that period, despite the fact we saw a significant decline in order intake in April and May last year, which was significant, but the market has bounced back quite strongly as a result of government stimulus packages and import supply chain disruption, which we're still experiencing now. The impact of the growth in the housing market, we're only just starting to see that flow through into extrusion demand in the first quarter of this year, and we expect that will continue right through this year and well into 2022. So that's a summary of Capral. We're very pleased to have come through what was an extremely difficult period in 2020 with COVID restrictions in place, both on us personally, but as a business. And it's really very pleasing to see the business come out of that and in a very strong shape. So thank you for listening, and thank you for your continued support. And here we have some contact details.